Welcome to the Hasn't Been 3 Days podcast with your hosts, Justin and BJ. We talk about 3-day-old news, sports, and whatever else we want to talk about. You, the MVP listener, you listen in, you hate on our takes and opinions, but just don't let us know those unless it's been 3 days. You can email us at 3dayoldpodcast@gmail.com. And let us know what you think. We're thankful for you, the MVP listener. Just to recap, our impressions are up again. So thank you, listener, for sticking with us. This is our episode number 14 of this first season. And we're still trying to figure this out, but we're enjoying the creative outlet. 1,213 impressions over the last 30 days. 603 impressions on YouTube, 816 impressions over the last month. Still, our female listeners are listening in. We're getting a lot of feedback, good feedback. Thankful for all of our listeners. Males, let us know what you think. What's up? Our peers are listening. It's good. We're still in 7 countries. We're international. It's awesome. Speaking of international, here's your international host, Justin. What's up, Justin?
Hello. How are you, BJ? How was your weekend?
Weekend was busy. We had a birthday celebration this weekend, and Ronnie turned 19, and so we had to go to Red Robin, get a gluten-free bun, and had a good time with Ronnie and
Just
our
a gluten-free
family.
bun? That's all you wanted?
No, he loves hamburgers, and anytime he can have a bun, since has celiac disease, he loves that. So Red Robin is one of his favorites. We did the Red Robin thing. We did some gifts. We did some hanging out with family and friends, and it was awesome. So it was a good weekend. Sunday was busy, doing some family stuff as well, and it was good. But yeah, busy weekend, good weekend overall. How about you? What'd you do?
Yeah, we stayed busy with hanging out with, Becky being home, and just kind of just chilling, getting used to her being around, and now she can boss us around. And, the kids can listen to mom and not have to listen to dad. They always really did listen to mom anyways. But yeah, we just kind of hung out, watched football. We babysitted for our youth pastor and their kid. His name is Bridger. I don't even remember how old he is, but he loves Becky at church. He always looks down when he's being carried and seeing, where's Becky at? We jokingly say, he's saying in his head, where's Wheels at? Where's Wheels? And he always smiles, and so he got to hang out with us for a couple hours. And he got to enjoy the multi-screen videos or football, and calmed him down a lot. So he enjoyed it. So
good.
But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so-
That's another one we haven't talked about. That we need to get your youth pastor on here. That would boost our ratings because his family is some of the people that I have heard from privately about this podcast. So I would love to get a Clough on the podcast, and that'd be cool.
No, he's not my youth pastor. I'm graduated.
Well, yeah, your kid's his youth pastor.
Yeah, no.
Great guy. So
Yeah, it's I saw Ray this weekend at the church.
oh,
They
cool.
had that's the reason we were babysitting. They had some youth in-service sponsored kind of thing, free training or something like that. I don't know. Church hosted it. Both Brad and Carly are involved in that, and so they called us and said, it'd probably be really hard for you guys to say yes, but will you watch our kid? And then obviously Becky and Bree are all like, yep, we'll do it no matter what.
Yep.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
we had
cool.
fun doing that, and obviously church, and then just relaxing and sitting around. So, and just naturally just running around town too for everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that,
Hey, did
Go
you
ahead.
ever watch the show? It was originally hosted by Drew Carey. I think it was called Whose Line Is It Anyway?
yes.
And so they would
Some
have
of the
these
great-
Yeah, some of the greatest things came out of that improv show. So we just, in full transparency, a peek behind the curtain, we are going improv tonight, and Justin has no clue what I'm going to ask him. I have no clue what he might ask me. So here we go. I have a question for you on that. Um, and I lost what was there, but I have another one.
Oh, okay.
So we have started this podcast. We're doing it 14 episodes now. We're enjoying the creative outlet. We're figuring some things out. We're having fun with it. It's really for us. Somebody asked us today who our audience was, and I wanted to just say, kind of snarkily, it's not really about that. We're doing this for us, and people are just listening in. They enjoy our stories. They enjoy the friendship that we're sharing, and they are part of that too over the years. So it's been pretty cool. But speaking of podcasts and what we listen to, what we read, I know you don't read much except on the toilet, but what do
I've
you
read one book, one whole book on the
book.
toilet.
Yeah. So what do you listen to? What other things do you listen to?
Well, I mean, I listen to sports radio, like sports talk, like all day at work when when I'm not counseling with patients or dealing with stuff at the hospital. But really, just unfortunately, just a lot of Nebraska sports talk. Nothing really national. Most of the radio I listen to talks about a lot of things, and Nebraska included. But I I know that us starting a podcast, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch clips of podcasts, but I don't go out of my way to really watch any. I mean, I guess most of my podcast listening is when I find like a reel of a 30-second clip that I really like, and then I'll go and like watch the episode because I find it interesting. So, but a lot of comedians have podcasts, so they're kind of funny to not a lot of comedians are not showing behind the curtain because they pretty much tell everything. But other than that, I know I'm rambling, but I just don't really have a lot of podcasts that I sit down and listen to an episode a week or an episode a day or whatever. So, but I'll go find them if I find a clip that I really like.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I listen to a lot of. I have an hour commute one way every day, and so I have to listen to something, and I don't listen to. We don't have very good talk radio anymore. I think people have gone to the podcast world more so than radio anymore, or maybe I just don't have the access to it anymore.
No. I think you're right on that because when I was listening to, we were listening to sports radio on the way taking my daughter to school today, and I was telling her about the guy that's on the radio is going to be the MC at this nonprofit we're going to go to, and she's like, "Well, all these guys sound the same," and she's like, "Is this just another podcast of yours, Dad?" And I said, "No, this is live AM radio, or it's FM radio. It's Rife Sportscast." And she's like, and so it got me thinking, is like, so are there radio shows now that are live that just use their episodes and call them podcast, or are they all filming like a podcast and just calling them radio stations? Like, what are they now?
Yeah, I think it's both and.
Both ends. I think it's dual purpose, right? They don't have to film a separate podcast because they can just use their radio segments as their podcast, and a lot of them.
And then people can listen at any time. I mean, that's one way that I had kept up with Tony Kornheiser over the year is that he created it as a podcast, and I could listen after the fact.
And I think that's kind of what everybody's kind of going to is those types of situations. So, we're not on the radio yet.
No. Yeah, I think it would be. That was one of the things that I had a dream. Like when I was actually thinking about getting out of ministry back in 2020, I looked into what it would take to go to like a voice training school and do some broadcasting. I thought it would be cool to be on the radio, do some sports games. I still think it would be cool to do some play-by-play. Or I don't have the voice for it. I have a very monotone voice, but I think it would be fun to do for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I know I don't have a radio voice. I sound horrible.
Yeah.
I've listened to myself and I'm like, oh, gosh, these people have to. Well, that was one other thing I forgot to tell you. I know we're kind of all over the place probably tonight, but this weekend Becky and I filmed like a, I guess you would call it like a thank you, or kind of like I guess you just call it like a thank you or a thank you video to be played at a benefit that we're going to be going to, that we were recipients of one year. So they asked us like all these questions like, hey, what has this nonprofit done for you? How's it made you, like, how do you want to be remembered? When people hear your story. And I remember, and this all segues back to telling the guy who was recording, I was like, you're going to have to do a lot of audio fixing on my voice. It's going to be bad. And so, yeah. And being on camera, I hate that. So I would never be good on video podcasts. And you would have to do a lot of audio fixing for me to do any audio, the play-by-play or anything. So, but anyways. Well, what other podcasts do you listen to everything, not just sports like Kornheiser or anything like that, but what else do you listen to for podcast wise?
I'm a big junkie for like crime podcasts and drama stuff. Not like drama like Kardashian drama, but like true crime. I listen to a lot of true crime stuff. I think that's fun. Crime Junkie was one of my favorites that got me started in that. They're through the Audio Chuck group. They've just exploded. They got a bunch of different shows now. But Crime Junkie is one of the old faithfuls. But lately I've been binging on Dateline crime podcast, the Dateline show that you saw on TV. They have a podcast. I'm getting through. I'm still in 2000. I listen old to new. Okay. So that's how I kind of will go through an old podcast, especially one that has that many episodes. I'm still in 2019 on the Dateline podcast, and but I just it's like I can't get enough of it. I enjoy it. So
yeah.
One of the other things, to go serious though, my dad sends me a lot of stuff on some devotional stuff, some authors. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Starting another podcast, kind of piggybacking off of this one. But my dad sends me a lot of an author by the name of John Ortberg does a devotional. It's a video devotional. It's just a 10-minute little clip. We're not getting plugged for this, but I'll plug it for him. John Ortberg's daily devotion is just really, really good. It's about a 10 to 12-minute clip every day. He does something. It's a little video on YouTube. And you could check that out for if you want some inspiration or some challenge every morning. It's really good. I'm going to probably start using that with my staff, just as a quick way to kind of get in the Word and just get some insight from a great author. So yeah, I listen to a lot of different things. I listen to some sports. A lady at work put me on to one of our local teams here, the Beaver Sports Podcast. Through the guy that runs that is one of the voices of the Oregon State Beavers football team.
Okay.
And so he does the Beaver sports. So he goes and interviews a bunch of the different coaches and athletes across the board there at Oregon State. And so that's pretty cool. Pretty good. Been listening to that for a couple of weeks. So that's pretty good. But yeah, then, I'll listen to our competition. I listen to New Heights podcast.
Our competition. That's right. We're going to take them down.
We don't have the Swifties. We don't have the Ohio following, but
how do we change that?
I think we need to have your wife on the show, and maybe we get some following from having our significant others on the show.
Well, yeah, my family's already pretty much claimed her and got rid of me anyways. So, I mean, you probably get more followers, like you said. So, and we still need to get my parents on. I think I'm just going to keep on saying that every episode. So when they listen every week. Every Tuesday they tell me they listen. Every Tuesday they listen to the previous week's episode
to get ready. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but
let me put a plug in for that too. I know what you said last time about your mom not wanting to be on and not having a voice for it or whatever.
No. I know why my dad doesn't want to do it. I can tell you that in a second. Go ahead.
But I just want to say to Tim and Sharon, hey, we love you. This whole podcast, as Brady said a couple weeks ago, this is about friendship. This is about relationship. Tim and Sharon have been so instrumental in our lives, obviously, in our friend group's life, in all the things. And when my parents were on, we talked about that and just the relationship. There's stories of Tim cleaning the church, and with my dad was the pastor there. There's so many things that we can talk about. There's things that we can talk about that probably we shouldn't talk about, but we can. And Tim and Sharon are just they're so real. They're real people. They're awesome to be around. And I just want to put a plug in from your favorite adopted son, Tim and Sharon. Please come on the podcast. Please, please, please.
You outranked Nate. Good job.
No, I said adopted son.
I know, and I said you outranked. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, my dad said that he wouldn't do the podcast because it would incriminate him on all the stories that get told. He would have to confirm the incrimination. And so that's why he doesn't want to do it. He told that to my sister because they were talking about it. And
well, we do this with every one of our guests. We ask them what's off limits.
Yeah, my dad would say everything.
Everything. I think we could still have a conversation with Tim and Sharon without incriminating it.
We could just bring my dad on. He could just say, "Yep." Nope.
This is his confessional. It's like Dashboard Confessions. It's the Coffee with a Comedian. It's the Dad Confessional with Son podcast. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was funny. He told my sister that he wouldn't want to incriminate himself, and I'm like, Dad, some of that stuff is way older than 7 years. You're fine. You're not going to prison. But I think he's just afraid people would judge him differently. And there's no reason to, because there's nothing to be judged about.
Yeah. I'd say, Tim and Sharon, please come on. Please come on. When you listen to this next week, please come on the podcast. We are begging you.
They need to be on.
So that'll be good.
Maybe I'll, over the holidays, we'll spike their drinks and we'll just record them that way.
Hey, that works too. Yeah, well, that would be entertaining. Yeah. There's another story. We could tell stories about them without them coming on, and
we could just tell those stories so they have to come on to say if they're true or not.
Either we can talk about it or they can talk about it. So I have some really good stories about Sharon and some Long Island iced tea. So,
oh my gosh! Yes, that's true. And Nate at the same time.
And Nate. Yep. Yeah. We're doing some work on getting some interviews and getting some people on. It's going to be good. We got some really good, exciting things coming. For those of you that have stuck with us for this first season, we don't know how long the first season is going to go. We're still efforting a few different interviews for some different backgrounds and different experiences, which will be really cool. And then we got some special holiday episodes planned. We might try to get some guys back together and some special guests, and then our kids are planning something, and we don't know what that is all about yet, but that could be coming for you, so we'll tease that a little bit. And we got some things in the works. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and like you said, because I jokingly told you, and you mentioned about like ending, like having a season, and then taking a break, and I'm like, but then what are we going to do? And you're like, some things just need a break for a second. We can come back. And, I think I agree with you. I think we need to have a season, season finale, not a series finale, season finale into the holidays probably, and let people recuperate, because, they're spending a lot of time listening to us. 14 episodes, man, that's a lot of hours. It's a lot of commitment. But
and we've had some people that have listened to every episode, and those MVP listeners, I just thank you. Thanks for sticking with us, and those of you that keep joining us, I appreciate it. This is a creative outlet for Justin and I. We don't really take input from other people as to content, but you guys keep tuning in and wanting to listen, and I thank you for that. And it's people from all different backgrounds. Like I said, I've heard from people that I didn't even think would be listening to something like this, and they keep listening. They just like, we love hearing the stories and what's going on, and so we're just being real and having fun with this, and it's been good. So,
well, it's always interesting to tell people who don't even know you; they just know me, or vice versa,
or
right?
vice versa, yeah.
Yeah, and they hear you and they're like, "Oh, wow, you guys have history," or "Wow, I can totally listen to you guys because I know you." It's entertaining through the conversations, and so yeah, it's like you said before, it's a creative outlet. It's always interesting to try to explain to people what your podcast actually is, and so that's always fun. And I'm just like, I pretty much just say, yeah, it's just two idiots just having fun, and maybe just one idiot.
Then no, we're just two guys out here enjoying
we're just
life,
here having fun, yeah, exactly. So
that's good.
So crime So we're gonna go back to podcasts. So crime podcast that you listen to, does that get into anything? Does it dabble into crime conspiracies? Like, I'm a conspiracy kind of guy. Like, I like a good conspiracy theory. I like going down the rabbit hole on every kind of topic. Does crime podcast get into that so much, depending on what the crime is about?
Yeah, I mean they're gonna go these try to do true. Like I said, that's true crime. So they're trying to give both sides of a story. They're trying to tell the story well, so that there is some suspense and some you're intrigued, you're following along, which is really cool. Now I will say, Audio Chuck, and a shout out to I've drawn a blank on her name. I think it's Tiffany Flowers is her name. They've written a book that's really good, but one of their new shows that she's just starting is called So Supernatural, and it talks a little bit about some of the supernatural kind of stuff. That's not exactly what you're talking about, but
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the conspiracy theory because I'm like, why are we going to talk about things that there is no logic and no reason to that? It's just a conspiracy. I'm like, come on, let's just use some brain cells here. But
there are some conspiracy theories you can figure out right away that it's like, this is just crap. But then there's some that you're just like, ooh, I've experienced that, and interesting.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. When there's some real life stuff, but people just making stuff up for no reason just to get an attention. I
guess I was going it from a real life situation, since you were talking about true crime.
Yeah, so. I mean, if you're talking like conspiracy where there are two shooters in JFK type of thing, yeah, I mean that's something that would get talked about. But
we've been there. We've been to Grassy Knoll.
Yeah, we have, and
we found shell casings.
Yeah. There's some of that for sure, but there's especially the Dateline one. They were wrapped up kind of just for TV, so you hear a little bit of the story made for TV, so that you get to the end within a 45-minute episode or whatever. So
makes sense.
There's other things that I like to listen to. A lot of nonfiction type stuff, the real life things, true things, stories about places I know about. There was a series of podcasts regarding Mars Hill Church that I got into when I was pastoring, just to listen to some of those things. There's so much stuff out there now. Everybody's doing something. That's why when Dia was on and she talked about she was in the podcasting world for a while, and if you're seeing your numbers go up, whatever you're charting, if you're going up and people are listening, then you're winning. It doesn't matter how big your numbers are, because everybody's doing a podcast. So, those kind of things are cool to know that kind of we're in that arena now too, and just doing something we enjoy. So I think that's what it's about. That's what the Audio Check people do, the Crime Junkie ladies. It's what they love to do. They started volunteering for their local crime police department, kind of that, if you know tip lines, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And they started studying some of these cold cases or closed cases. And they just have a passion for finding the truth to a story or being a voice for the voiceless. And so you kind of get behind the the people that are doing it too, and so I follow stuff that they do. One of the things which I thought would be cool, they're based out of Indiana, but they've grown so big, and they hire investigators now to work for them and to do their stories. And one of the things they're hiring, you should go check out their website, Justin. They're hiring a bunch of stuff for their podcast team, and they're trying to give their main personalities to get them out of the administrative side of things. So they're exploding. They're huge. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. We've talked about the growth of our podcast or our about doing other things. Like you've talked about interests of, some coaching or whatever. I mean, we joked about me and my brother having a podcast too, which I don't know how well that would go.
That'd be cool.
It would be hilarious. But yeah, you hear these like empires grow off of, the one, their very first podcast and how it really grows from there and keeps it going. But it would be interesting to see. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that they have like they're exploding, that they're trying to get away from the administrative stuff. We have a very small podcast, and I will say the administrative piece can be time consuming. Doing all your own editing and stuff, and just I know we're improvising tonight, and we do a little bit of show prep just to have something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when
Well,
you
yeah,
blow up like that, it's
hunting down interviews and like you said, editing those and mixing that, and there's some work to this, but again, it's a release for you. You've said that from that side of it. For me, it would be cool to get into the business side of it a little bit more and understand what it would take to get a sponsor, or chasing down interviews has been a little bit difficult at times, but it's cool. It's cool to just kind of see something new and do something different. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm intrigued for the second season when we get going.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. So
yeah, maybe we'll have a producer by then.
Yeah, we'll see. So, well, let's move on to something else for tonight. And
so, you have something in mind?
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. I know you're a Broncos fan. Ooh. Are you okay?
Here's the thing. So you said this, and you said this early on in the season when we started predicting games. You were close to predicting a score exactly. I want everybody to go back and listen to last week's podcast of the predictions. I predicted every flipping thing of the end of that game. Everything, down to the score. And I said, I didn't know it would be a block kick, but I said I do not like Will Lutz as our kicker. I don't have confidence in him. 2 blocked kicks in that game.
Yeah.
And when I saw the score, because I don't have TV coverage to watch all the sports I want to watch. So I'm watching the score on my phone, and I see that Denver's up, 14-3, 14-10. And then I'm like, what's going on? And so then I start watching the game cast on the ESPN app, and I'm like, okay, then they start having to punt the ball and not doing anything like Denver's normally been doing, and Kansas City starts coming back. And then it's 14-10, then it's, 14-13, and then I'm like, okay, we're stopping them. Defense is holding them. Then it's 14-16, getting into the fourth quarter. And I'm like, I predicted 17-16 on a buzzer beater kick by Will Lutz. And it comes down to it, and I'm watching this thing. I'm like, they're driving the ball. They're going to do this. And I predicted this exact score. I predicted this exact scenario. And then I'm watching the clock, and I'm refreshing. I'm sitting there like, can you refresh? The 2-minute warning doesn't take 10 minutes. And I'm refreshing. And then all of a sudden, final 14-16. And I'm like, what the... Yeah. And then I see that it was another block kick.
It was brutal. I called my son down and said, hey, because I was like, oh, I don't want him to gloat because he's a KC fan. So I was like, he's going to gloat and he's gonna walk in. He's like, oh, they're gonna miss it. And in my head, I was like, I texted this to you after it happened, but I said in my head, Kansas City's gonna do something to get an offsides so they could block it. So it would be their way of icing the kicker. But then they just decided that they would just blow up the left part of the line because the lineman barely even blocked the guy and fell right over.
Have you seen those reels that people are like praising Patrick Mahomes as like the next Messiah, and they're like, Patrick Mahomes can't do it, and they're like, this is not the Chiefs game. Why are we talking?
Yeah.
You know, he's probably going to get, and then Patrick Mahomes is legit. Okay, this is the problem I have with NFL quarterbacks. Tom Brady, arguably he's a Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks in the NFL history.
Correct.
I won't put him at the top because you know why I won't put him at the top. But
yes, John Elway.
John Elway is the greatest quarterback to ever live. But
and the greatest car salesman too.
Until they went bankrupt, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
So, but here's the thing: Patrick Mahomes runs on the field like he's just won the national championship.
Yeah, but it's a rival game, though.
It's a rival game, but and all these Chiefs fans. This is what I just can't stand. Okay, you opened the can. So
I know.
Here we go.
But somebody asked me what your response would be, so this is why I'm asking.
Okay, so here's my response. Here's my response. If you're going to sit here and brag about the fact that you're the only undefeated team, you're the 2-time Super Bowl champ, and everybody's gunning for you, and this is everybody's Super Bowl, that's fine, whatever. Denver had beat you last time on your home field, and they were going for 2 in a row, a streak that nobody can say right now about the Chiefs, except for it would have been Denver. And Sean Payton said it after the game. He goes, we outplayed them in every aspect of the game, and we did. It was the Chiefs should have lost that game. But for the 2-time Super Bowl champion, quarterback of the team, to go out there and act like he's never been there before, you might as well have had him orchestrating them tearing down the goalpost. It's like, true. So here's my argument, okay? You want to be happy because it's a rivalry game, fine. But don't, as a Chiefs fan, don't come at me and say, oh, who's the only undefeated team? Who's the only undefeated team? Then act like you've freaking been there before.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
So that's the most sour I've been about being a losing Bronco fan over the last 5 years, because when the Broncos were kicking the Chiefs' butt for the 4 to 5 years before this, when Peyton Manning was there, and the Chiefs couldn't sniff a win against Denver for 9 straight games. Nobody's talking about that. But when the Chiefs come back and they've won 15 in a row before the Denver beat them last year, and now Denver should have beat them this year. It's like, act like you've been there before. Act like you've been there before.
But maybe the Chiefs don't do that, so that way they always have a chip on their shoulder.
Well, and that
maybe it motivates them.
But here's the other thing. Then I listen to our competition, and I have full respect in the world for these pro athletes and what they do. That's their job. That's good for them. They've been blessed with that. But then to hear the Kelsey brothers talk about the Chiefs every single week, and Travis Kelce, he's a very humble pro athlete, probably arguably one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game, and he will sit there and take ownership for any loss, for any problem that the Chiefs have had. He will take all the ownership on himself. He is a true leader, and he is doing it the right way. I don't know him, so I can't say if it's true humility or not. But what I do respect about him is that he will own their poor performance himself, and he's a tight end.
Yeah. Well, and that's when you're a leader on a team, I think you have to say that.
Yeah.
Because saying anything else, people are going to call you out right away.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I like Travis Kelce. Like, just his demeanor. It seems like him and George Kittle. Like, they're fun to watch. Like, George Kittle was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Even though he went to Iowa. He was fun to watch they had that Receiver U or whatever they did on Netflix. Yeah. Well, they did it on Netflix. It was like they did the quarterback one with the quarterbacks, and then they did a receiver one recently, and they included tight ends. And Kittle was on there. That guy, such a down, like, he's like a guy's guy. Like
He is.
yeah.
He
So,
is.
anyways,
But here's the thing. Think about the personalities of Kittle and Kelsey, but then think back to like our time, and you think about like the Shannon Sharps and the Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates, and some of these past tight ends that they had the personalities too. I mean, Shannon Sharp still today has a personality and
yeah,
is out there. I think that's cool to see that position that be are you a blocking tight end, receiving tight end, whatever, but they've kind of made a name for themselves, because of the Shannon Sharps that have come before them. And Travis Kelce will say that. He'll give all the honor to those guys that have paved the way for him, and he's wanting to do the same thing for the guys coming behind him, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, and I think nowadays it's just easier for them to have the voice, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like back in our days, the only time you ever heard of them was when they're doing an interview after the game or during the week. That was the only time you heard them. Now these guys have a podcast every hour. It seems like.
To sum this up before we get into our picks this week, because we're getting to that point of the show, but to give your person whoever asked about my reaction to this,
it's my mom, by the way.
I think I'm becoming a little bit more colorful in losing now with the Broncos because they're on the verge of doing something. And yes, they have a rookie quarterback, and that takes time to develop. But Sean Payton, they went and traded for Sean Payton, for crying out loud. When you go do that for a coach, or you do that like they did for Peyton Manning, you expect to win. And the Denver organization, they've done those things. When they got Peyton Manning, when they got Sean, they're expecting to win. And when you are right on the edge and you have the pieces to do it, and you shoot yourself in the foot so many times, it's hard. It's frustrating. And like I said, I will never not be a Denver Bronco fan. But I'm starting to get a little bit more vocal in losing because they should not be losing the way they're losing.
You're like the old guy on the porch yelling at people in your yard.
I'm like the Husker fan.
Well,
you're the Broncos.
Well, 100% you are.
Yeah.
Speaking of Huskers, they this week they just decided, hey, we're gonna fire or we're gonna reassign the offensive coordinator to a tight end coach and just bring in a guy that hasn't been coaching all year, and he's gonna be our offensive coordinator this week
against USC.
Against USC.
Yeah.
So also change their quarterback and.
Who has a coach that has traditionally been a winning coach at a winning program. He goes to try to test himself. Now I know your thoughts a little bit on this, and we're jumping into our games right now. But Lincoln Riley, say what you want about him. He went to USC to try to prove himself, in my opinion.
Actually, no, I don't think so. Do you want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
He didn't want to go to the SEC. And he knew Oklahoma was going to go there.
I can't disagree with that comment because Oklahoma traditional. So Lincoln Riley, was he not a quarterback there as well at Oklahoma?
No, I don't think so.
Or he was on the staff maybe with
maybe
Stoops or somebody like that. But he had tradition with Oklahoma. Then he's coaching kind of like a Scott Frost situation where that's his home school, right? Somehow or another. He had tradition there. And then I agree with you. I don't disagree with what you're saying. But when you can go and win at Oklahoma and that's kind of your first go-round and you're winning, I don't know. I think as a leader, as a coach, you want to challenge yourself. Look at John Calipari in basketball going from Kentucky. Yeah, there's all this speculation and all the things, but now he's at Arkansas. And you went to the same conference to go to another school and try to, keep doing your thing. I mean, to me, I think coaches need a challenge. And I don't think Lincoln Riley is the greatest coach since sliced bread, but I do think that he needed a challenge. He wanted to go to USC. I agree with you. Probably didn't want to go to the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, so he was a quarterback at Texas Tech. That's where he played. And then he coached as an OC quarterbacks coach at Oklahoma. So he just kind of transitioned into that. But I honestly think he didn't want to go to the SEC as a coach, which I don't disagree with that, right? Mm-hmm. At the time, you go to when he went to the USC, they were in the Pac-12, right? So,
Yeah.
and then now he's in the second. Maybe some could argue the top two leagues that we have right now in college football. So, from a competition standpoint, from the Big Ten and the SEC, but now he's stuck right in the middle of it. So,
But I mean, that's the thing. You talk about parity in the NFL. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to become the NFL and just the parity that's there. To be the middle of the pack in the Big Ten and the SEC is not going to be a bad season.
no. But right now they're what, 4? I think they're 4-5 on the verge.
Four and
5.
4-5, and Nebraska's 5-4 or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Well, let's get into those games real quick.
Okay.
Last week, I got to talk about this. We had 2 perfect weeks in a row. Our guest Jeff 2 weeks ago went 0-5 for the first perfect week ever, and I need some applause for this. 5-0, my first 5-0 week, the first winning perfect week. Thank you. I'm still losing. I'm still losing after a 5-0 week, but we went 5-0. You went 3-2. Good week, solid week. So this week we got some games to pick. I was a little scared. There's a lot of big point spreads this week on the docket, but the biggest point spread this week is New Mexico State going to number 14, Texas A&M in College Station. Texas A&M is favored by 39.5 points. 39, and New Mexico State is not an 0 for team. They have some wins on the season. So I've already picked the first 4 games I got for us tonight. So my picks are already locked in. So I'm going to go first here. I'm going to say New Mexico State does not allow them to cover this spread. Okay. I think Texas A&M wins, obviously, but I don't think they win by 40 points.
I think it's really hard to win by 40 points this time of the year.
I agree.
Unless...
Not so fast.
I mean, unless you are, playing for a top playoff spot. But nowadays, with the 12 playoffs and A&M's right on the edge, they're on 15.
They were on last week's projections. They were the second team left out on the projections.
So, man, but I don't know if putting up a big number moves you up spots.
But not I think to now New Mexico State.
No, yeah, this is that time of the year where SEC starts scheduling their non-conference games in the middle of their conference season, which pisses people off. It's funny.
Yep.
But 40. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna take A&M to cover.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. It's at A&M. It's at whatever time of the day.
6:45 Central.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be dark. It's gonna be dark down there. People are not gonna like it. 100,000 people.
All right. Well, I'm only technically 1 game behind you in the standing, so that could be the determining factor right there. Is this game? So thank you for that. I picked New Mexico State.
You're welcome.
Yep. So second game is the 2 top 25 teams playing. Actually, 2 top 10 teams playing this week. Number 7 Tennessee is going into Athens to face number 3 Georgia. Georgia is favored by 10 points. It's a 6:30 p.m. game in Georgia. I think the Bulldogs had a scare last week. Kirby Smart, he just, in his interviews this week, I saw clips of him. He just seems annoyed. And when Kirby Smart gets annoyed,
yep, it's not good.
It's not good, especially when you have a rivalry game coming up. And I think Georgia wins this game. I think they cover the points. I think they win by at least 12, if not 14.
Yeah, with it being at Georgia, because you said at Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. I actually think. What's the spread again? Say it again.
10 points.
10 points for Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they cover it.
All right.
Cover it. They're gonna win by. I'm calling this one. They're winning by 11. Some
11
weird
points.
number. Yeah, some
Okay.
weird number.
Safety in there.
Yeah, getting a safety in there.
Okay.
Safety in numbers,
All
right?
right, let's jump to the NFL. We got the Baltimore Ravens are on the road, but they are favored by 3.5 at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Divisional game, 12 noon Central Time. Ravens favored by 3.5. Ravens. Sometimes you just don't know which Ravens team is going to show up. But the Ravens are a solid team in the AFC. I'm the Steelers at home.
That's a tough one.
I'm taking the Steelers because I've already picked it, so I don't want it to seem. So that's why I'm picking first on these. Is I already wrote my picks down, and I don't want it to seem like I'm cheating after a 5-0 week. So I'm going Steelers on this one to win, or no, I'm going Steelers to not cover the points. Yep.
Oh, you mean Steelers to cover the points? Okay.
Steelers to cover the points. I think the Ravens win, but I think it's less than 3.5.
Which is crazy. But, I mean, 3.5, that's just like a push when you're...
Well, it's a push if you were... No.
Well, it's the other way around.
It's almost like a 6-point favorite.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to go Ravens win and cover.
Okay.
That's because I have Lamar Jackson as my quarterback.
I knew that's what you'd say, so that's good.
Fantasy.
That's legit. So
plus, at some point, unfortunately, the Steelers are going to get the Russell Wilson that was a Bronco. And that's not going to go well.
I hope so. And I hope it happens on them. I hope they get a kick block to lose the game. And the Steelers still cover the points, but I hope they lose the game. I hope Russell Wilson takes the loss.
Yeah, I don't. The NFL was interesting this week. It was Jared Goff winning. Like, the Rams are not on your picks this week, right?
No.
Okay, so did you watch that Sunday night game?
No.
Okay, Jared Goff. Nope, that wasn't Sunday night. That was the Lions. That
Monday
was
night.
No, that was
Rams and Dolphins.
Yeah. Jared Goff is the Lions. They played the Texans on Sunday night.
Yeah.
He threw 5 interceptions.
Wow.
And they won. It was stupid. It was like the most interceptions in a game. I think they had 2 touchdowns late in the game, and then they were able to come back.
Wow.
That's the kind of game Russell Wilson's going to have.
He's due for it. He had so many bad games for Denver. I think he's due for it, so that'd be great. Yeah. So you're going Ravens to win.
I'm going Ravens to win. Yep.
All right. Let's move on to the aforementioned chefs. They are going to Buffalo to play the Bills, an AFC rival. The Bills are favored by 2.5. It's a 3:25 Central game on the East Coast. It's going to be cold.
I was just going to say, what's the temperature going to be?
I don't know. I didn't write that one down. But the Bills, normally Vegas gives you 3 points for being at home. They're favored by 2.5. This is a pick'em game. It is a pick'em game when the Chiefs play the Bills. Anyway, I can't believe this. I already wrote it down, Justin.
You're picking the Chiefs? Oh, my gosh.
Here's the thing. I'm picking the Chiefs not to cover the spread.
Okay.
I'm picking the Chiefs in the points. I'm not picking them to win. I'm picking the Chiefs in the points. So I think the Bills win, but I think they win by 1.
I can get down with that.
So I want to make it clear to all the listeners, especially Sharon Rabel and especially Nate Rabel. I hate the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to lose this week to the Bills by 1 point because they should have lost to the Broncos by 1 point. And the Bills do not cover, and that's why I'm picking the Chiefs in the points.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if you hate the Chiefs.
I hate the Chiefs.
I haven't picked up on that yet. I can get down with that, but I think I'm going to go. I think that this is the game that the Chiefs lose, and I think this is when they lose by double digits.
Ooh.
And their first loss, and it humbles them. and
So
then they
you're
can
going
come
Bills to cover.
Bills to cover.
All right. Good deal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those games. I think it's going to be, yeah. It might take Patrick not to play. I don't know.
Ooh, are you saying he might get hurt?
He could hurt his pinky toe that he paints. I don't know.
All right. We have sorry about that.
Little technical difficulties there.
Hit the wrong button. We have the Nebraska Cornhuskers fighting for a chance to get to a bowl game, going to Los Angeles to play the new Big Ten team of the USC Trojans. USC is under 500, worse record than the Huskers, but the USC Trojans are favored by 9.5 points at home against the Huskers. What do the experts know that we don't know, Justin?
That betting's bad for your health.
By the way, I have not picked this game yet. I'm letting our discussion here decide who I'm going to pick here. So just for the record.
I mean, yeah. So 9.5. That is something else. I mean, if you've watched Nebraska the last few weeks, if kind of just besides Ohio State, which seems like the outlier, that they played really well against them. And I don't know if it was just Ohio State playing down in Nebraska. I don't know what it was, but oh man. Nebraska made some interesting decisions this week and got rid of, well, they reassigned their OC and brought in Dana Holgerson. Holgerson? What did I just say? Anyways, they brought in an air raid quarterback that it's pretty much just been said, hey, you've been here a week, you're calling plays. I think they're throwing everything at this game because I think this is a make or break game.
So let me ask you this question.
I say that, but it's not going to break the season or anything. It's just going to break. It's not going to break the season. I think it's just Matt Rule has come out previously and said nothing about making a bowl game, and all of a sudden the tone has changed. Like I think he's hearing it from the fans and reading it that we can't have another season of Nebraska not getting to a bowl game.
Yeah.
We've had it's instrumental to the development and for his culture.
It's instrumental for the entire program to be as historically winning program that they are. To not go to a bowl game in the last how many years?
2000. Let's see here. I don't even remember. That's how bad it's been.
Yeah, it's been over. It's been over a decade, right? It's been 12 years, hasn't it? 12.
I think they played UCLA at the last bowl game. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. It has been since 2014, I believe.
So 10 years.
If I remember correctly.
So at least 10 years that Nebraska hasn't played in a bowl game. And you got it. I remember this. We talked about this because you guys don't like Colorado, and I understand that. But as Prime came into Colorado and they started 4-0 last year or 4-1 or something like that, and then they didn't make a bowl game. And Nebraska started out hot. They got ranked at one point. Then they played good against Ohio State, arguably, and then they laid an egg against UCLA and looked like the Nebraska team like I always talked about this year that I just can't stand. And then now we got – I don't know the rest of the schedule. I haven't looked at it, but this is game 10.
Yeah, USC. So Nebraska, real quick, Nebraska hasn't played in a bowl since 2016 season.
Okay,
they
8 years.
Yep. And Nebraska has USC. They have Wisconsin at home, and then a night game on Black Friday with Iowa. That's the remaining schedule for them.
So and you sent me a clip of a Nebraska podcast talking about this. There's a chance that Nebraska goes and wins these next 3 games and goes 8-4 and puts themselves in a great position in the Big Ten. There's also a chance that they lose the rest of the season and they go 5-7 and everybody's
5-7 and not winning a game since October would be freaking nuts.
Yeah. So 9.5 points at USC. Lincoln Riley, former Oklahoma coach, will, if he has the opportunity, he will run it up on the Huskers.
You think so? Just because of what reason?
Because he's a former Oklahoma guy. He will run it up, and this game, here's I'm going to give 2 predictions. I've said this all year about the Huskers. This game will either be close, come down to a one-score game. God forbid that we sit here and talk about another single-digit loss for the Huskers. Give me a freaking break on that.
We're really good at that, by the way.
But we have another one-digit loss, or it's 63-10 USC.
No. Nah, I don't think we get blown out.
Okay.
Nebraska.
I hope not.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be. Usually people run up the score when they have an issue with somebody or they're fighting for a spot. There are some USC sports writers that pretty much says that they don't really know what to expect out of USC either because they feel like they've kind of just thrown in the towel now too, because USC can't fire their OC, who is Lincoln Riley, and because their offenses hasn't been that great either. Mm-hmm. So they decided to go to a different quarterback, and now the quarterback that they've relied on, he's talking about transferring at the end of the season already. Like, he got sat, and he's like, well, I'm probably going to be out of here. Yeah. Which is the nature of the beast now.
Yeah. So, I know you're going to...
Yeah, Nebraska's going to win, right? Because I'm going to say Nebraska's going to win by 10.
Yep.
Nebraska has to win by 10. Like, don't even come back home if you're not winning by 10.
Okay. You heard it here first, Husker fans. Nebraska has to win by 10, or you might as well not get on the plane.
You might as well just start walking back.
You might as well transfer to USC. That's what he's saying.
Transfer the whole program to USC. It's just, you said one score. The whole one score thing, it's so crazy, the narrative about how that's happened with multiple head coaches, which is the craziest thing ever.
I just hate that as an excuse. That's all I'm saying. It's not a moral victory anymore. It's the fact that you can't win a 50-50 game. Come on. That's what it comes down to.
I would agree with it. Yeah, poor late stages of coaching and decision making and stuff like that. I agree with that.
So let me ask you this, and we'll get off of this and move on to closing out this show and this episode. But
what did you pick?
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to, based on what I've said tonight about this game, what would you say? I've already wrote it down, but what would you say I picked?
I think you're picking Nebraska winning by 7.
I didn't pick a score. I didn't write down a score. I did pick Nebraska to win,
but not cover.
No, I think they win outright.
Oh, yeah, they win outright. Yep, USC.
I think they win outright, and I think here's for all of these people. Brady came on the show and he says, "This is my role in this friend group, is I'm always sticking against the Huskers." I've said all season long, my role and my view on the Huskers is I am with them until they give me a reason to turn off the TV, which they have with UCLA. They did at Ohio State. I had a different view on the Ohio State game, but I still have hope in Matt Rule, and I have hope in these Huskers. Dylan Raiola is legit QB1, and they can do this. They can go into USC and show that they have changed the culture. They can win this game and get into a bowl game, the Poinsettia Bowl on December 23rd.
matter.
I
Just
don't
get to a
care
bowl
what it
game.
is. Get
Yeah.
into a bowl game. I
You
don't
can have
care
a bowl game in my backyard if you
if it's
want.
the New York Yankee pinstripe bowl that's played in Yankee Stadium. I don't care. All I'm saying is Huskers win. They go bowling for the first time in 8 years, and they better win that bowl game.
Well, yeah, getting into the bowl game and winning it. I know that during the bye week it was interesting. I know Matt Rule, from his press conferences, he literally said he sent all the upperclassmen, seniors who've been around the program, and took them out of the room and said, "You guys don't need to come back to practice for a few days." And Matt Rule sat and talked to all the freshmen and newcomers. He says, "This is not about next year. We're doing things this year. So get on board or we'll have different conversations." He pretty much called them out. He said that. He said we had a closed door meeting with the young guys saying, "This has got to stop. You need to be doing the things that you have been training for, like what we practice, what we preach. You need to do it." And then just flat out coming. When everybody heard about bringing in Dana as our, bringing him as an analyst, everybody was like, what's his role going to be? What's he going to be? And everybody was like, well, Matt Rule is going to tiptoe around it. He came out yesterday and says, "This is what we're doing. I'm in it to win it now. We're not in it for next year." And part of this is, you have to re-recruit your roster every year anyways. So some of this is to say, hey, and signing day is coming up too. So big picture, you have to decide what you're going to do. Your OC is not going to be here next year anyways. So why don't we bring in a guy that has a proven track record, probably a better OC than he was a head coach, someone, probably would say, and just see if he was already here this summer looking at your roster and determining if he wanted to come on staff with you. But he wanted an OC title, and they couldn't give that to him. So he chose to sit back. And I think he's been watching Nebraska for a while. That's why I think in 1 week they can bring him in. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting calling plays for a squad that you haven't been around yet. So that'll be interesting.
It will, and he'll dumb it down for him, but he won't be. This is the thing that is a little bit scary with him coming in. Well, no, he did a little bit of read option stuff, but he is an air raid guy. But it wasn't his quarterback at West Virginia, Geno Smith.
Well, yeah, Geno. Well, yeah, it would have been.
So he had Geno Smith, and Geno Smith has become a decent NFL quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
But he took him a few stops, and I think, but what he did with Geno Smith, I could see him doing something similar with Raiola, but especially when it's a 50-50 coin flip for me with him. And I said that to you earlier today. I don't have a whole lot of faith in him, but at the same time, I'm all for making adjustments. I've said that about any football team. If you can't make adjustments mid-season and mid-game, then you don't deserve to be coaching. And Coach Matt Rule, he's making adjustments, and he's doing the right thing by saying, we got to win now, and we're going to do it.
He has the flexibility now with all the new rules that you can just bring people on whenever you want and call them whatever you want. If we can hire you and call you an analyst, now you can be involved. Whereas before you couldn't do that with the rules. But the air raid, people just hear air raid. We're just going to throw the ball around with 12,000 receivers. No, it's about splits and putting people out, and your running backs get room to run.
Yeah.
And
that's maybe what we have to have.
Yeah, and maybe we'll need to do some motion of your wide receivers or tight ends to actually read what the defense is doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Nebraska hasn't done.
Yeah.
We have not been doing motion. Yeah. And I think if you watch any game film from anybody, what do? They motion somebody to identify what kind of defense they have. Nebraska doesn't have that. We motion a guy just to get him going, to kickstart him to run a jet sweep. Mm-hmm. And we don't really identify what's going on. And I think that was the lack of creativity from the last OC.
This game's on Fox, right?
Fox, 3:00. Well, 3:00 my time.
Yep.
So
I'll be trying to watch it. So It'll be good. I'll look forward to that. Yeah, thanks for your input. Thanks for the improv tonight, and appreciate that. Tim and Sharon, we're coming for you.
Yeah, we're
Get
gonna
get your act together and get on this show. It's worth it.
Yeah, I would agree. Plus, you get to talk to your son again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's bring the family together. Justin, what you got going on this weekend?
This weekend, not a whole lot. Just kind of chilling. Yeah, nothing really on this. I mean, football. Just kind of just hanging out with the family time, as always. Church on Sunday. I look at my schedule every week when you ask me this because it's usually filled with stuff, and this week it's not. So
cool. Chill.
Yeah, try to do something. I don't know.
That's good.
I got projects that honey-do list that I just say I got done and I never do them. I don't know. Just don't tell Becky that.
Okay.
What about you? What you got going on?
It's a pretty chill weekend as well. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah, I spend my weekend with a really cool person, and so I'll probably do some of that. And yeah, I know I'll do that. So that's what I'm doing, hanging out with some people I love, and just relaxing. So that's what I got on the docket. Not much happening.
No birthdays.
No birthdays this weekend. No birthdays this weekend, but I do want to say this before we get off of the show on this week. This is Veterans Week, Veterans Day week. Shout out to all our veterans, those friends that we have that have served, that are serving. So I don't want to get off the show without saying Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to our vets that serve.
Yes.
Again, I did this a couple weeks ago. I've got family and friends that have served. Kevin, brother-in-law, my buddy Lance that's fighting it. We talked to him about him a couple of weeks ago. Just thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you do and have done so that we can have these freedoms. So yeah,
no, definitely. And we apologize we didn't do that at the very beginning.
Yeah, that was my bad.
Well, your bad, my bad. I don't know what we're doing. It's like we don't know what we're doing. We're still forgive us, people.
Yeah.
But
well, good.
I appreciate you saying that, VJ.
Yeah. Well, and so next week we'll be back here again for episode 15. So tell your friends, share the podcast, Linktree, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Again, we did this at the top of the show. We're putting it out there. 3dayoldpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. Something we can add, maybe an interview, maybe a sponsor, whatever you think. Shoot us an email. We will read it and we will respond. So thank you for listening, and it's been a great week. Here's to a lack of communication of irrelevant age news. We'll see you next time.
See ya.